Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Friday morning. Our highlight of the night, we go to Memorial Auditorium. MIAC semis, Concordia St. Mary's. Nobody gave the Saints that they were the underdog here. They took a lead. Cobbers responded in the second half. Maya Metcalf, the outstanding former West Fargo Cheyenne player, scores down low. Cobbers rallying up 3. They poured it on. Metcalf was nearly unstoppable down low. Scores again. Cobbers got rolling after that. Celebration underway. They beat St. Mary's 71-62. Even Kim Wager's got to keep that video going. There's more in there of the celebration of them jumping around. At least I thought there was more. Cobbers win it 71-62. They're on to the MIAC final. They will host that tomorrow against Bethel for the right to go to the NCAA tournament. We had Kim on last week. Still thinks that they got a heck of a shot to make the NCAA tournament, and certainly with last night's win, that's a great way to start. And with that, we say good morning and welcome to Hot Mic here on this Friday, everybody, the 27th of February, the penultimate day of the month. We got a lot to get to here on a busy Friday. We'll recap everything we saw at the state hockey tournament coming up here in just a few minutes. We'll also get to what happened last night in St. Paul. The Bison, I don't know if it carried over what the women had happen on Wednesday night. The Bison men got flattened in St. Paul against St. Thomas. We'll show you that. And we'll give you your full NSIC tournament preview. We've done it, I think, 3 years running. The Friday before the NSIC tournament gets going in Sioux Falls, we visit with our good friend Rick Neumann from UMary. The Marauders are one of the top seeds. They've got a heck of a challenge in front of them to try and make the NCAA tournament. They've got an outside shot as an at-large. They're going to have to do some damage down in Sioux Falls. But we always talk to him before the tournament. So we'll do that coming up later on in the show. Also, I've been teasing it all week, and we've just gotten so busy with other stuff. Finally, we cleared out some space to hear the Mason Klabo ridiculous story of leaving the game to go get his inhaler in full uniform and then come back and resume. That's coming up later on here in our first hour. So excited about that. Well, also, it was a great sports night. The Wild and the Wolves played late last night. We'll show you what happened there coming up in just a little bit. But let's first start our show with what happened last night and yesterday out at Shields Arena. 8 games between the boys and the girls as the state hockey tournament officially got underway. The theme on the East side, and we talked about it when Sam was in studio yesterday, was the dominance of the East. Could anybody from the West rise up? Well, it took to our final game, the very final game, but finally we have a West team in the semifinals. We'll roll it from last night. Bismarck Legacy and Shanley was the final game of the night. The Deacons drew first blood on a Jack Rasmussen goal to make it a 1-0 Shanley lead. Legacy had tied it. Ben Garvey then will win it here on a power play. The Sabres added a couple empty netters, but Garley had 2. Legacy beat Shanley 4-1. First time ever that the Sabres will play in the semifinals. Who they're going to get? Well, Grand Forks Central decided they were going to come to the state hockey tournament and not mess around. 8 different players scored yesterday on 63 shots on goal. Central beats Bismarck Century 10-1. So that's one of the semifinals. From the afternoon, Grand Forks Red River took on Jamestown. The Blue Jays actually drew first blood. After that, Red River woke up. Caden Ulmer had a hat trick in the game. This capped it off on the power play. 5-1 Red River beats Jamestown. The Riders will play in the first semifinal later tonight. Who they're going to get? Well, our first game was a thriller between West Fargo Cheyenne and Minot United. Game was tied at 1 in the third period. The Mustangs get the go-ahead goal there that trickles over the line to make it a 2-1 score. It's tied at 2 in overtime. Look at this pass in the wide-open net for Wyatt Matson, who bangs it home. The Mustangs, the number 4 seed out of the East, move on with a 3-2 overtime win. That started the day out at Shields Arena yesterday. So, your semifinals tonight, you'll see it live on WDAY. West Fargo, Cheyenne, and Red River in the first game at 5:30. That'll be followed by about 8 o'clock with Grand Forks Central and Bismarck Legacy. Tip of the hat to the Sabres. They represent the West, as they're the only West team combined to win a game in the opening round yesterday. Now to the girls. Everyone looking at Fargo North-South is probably the overwhelming favorite. Well, the Spruans played on it like it yesterday. They opened the tournament with Minot United, and Kenley Fisher, who we featured on our Best of the Weekend a couple of times. She had a best of a Thursday. 4 goals yesterday. North-South rolls 8-0 over Minot United. They're moving on to the semifinals. Who are they going to get? It'll be the winner between West Fargo and Bismarck Century. Patriots down 4-2. They score here, make it a 4-3 game. Peyton Stocker, though, gets it to Emma Hassler for the goal. United win it 5-3. They'll get a rematch with Fargo North-South coming up later today. The evening quarterfinals had Grand Forks against Mandan. The Night Riders, that was the only goal of the game right there. They added a couple more in that first period. They're moving on with a 3-0 win over Mandan. And the final game, the defending state champs, Legacy Bismarck facing Davies. That goal squeaks by, makes it a 1-1 game in overtime. Hudson Hofer throws it at the net, and it goes in. The Eagles will celebrate. We'll have a new state champ in girls hockey in 2026. Davies with a 2-1 win over Legacy Bismarck. And remember, Legacy Bismarck did it last year. They were the overtime heroes. This one from Hofer got through, sent everybody into a frenzy, and the Eagles are moving on. So, the girls' semifinals will begin this afternoon at noon on WDAY. The first game, North-South against West Fargo, will drop the puck just after noon out at Shields Arena. And about 2:30, it'll be Grand Forks. That's the combo of Central and Red River. The Night Riders against Davies. The 6-seeded Eagles are moving on. That's our second semifinal at 2:30. So, an exciting day of hockey out at Shields Arena. I know a lot of tired legs for all of our camera operators and graphics, replay, you name it. There was a long day for both everybody here in our broadcast center and those out in South Fargo. Got to go right back and do it all over again coming up here in a couple hours. Consolation games will start at 11. All those games you'll be able to stream on WDAY+. So, exciting day out at the rink yesterday, and we'll see who's moving on to Championship Saturday coming up, starting here in just a couple of hours out on the south side of town. So if hockey wasn't your thing last night, and you're a basketball rube and following what's going on in the Summit League, well, we're into the penultimate day. Last night on the men's side, a couple of intriguing games last night. Oral Roberts and Omaha played, which we thought, Omaha's going to roll there. South Dakota State was facing Kansas City. We think the Jackrabbits are going to win. But all the attention, frankly, was on the game in St. Paul between the Bison and the Tommies, who came in 1-2 in the league. Granted, NDSU had already wrapped everything up after St. Thomas's loss on Saturday at Denver. The Bison cut the nets down. They were the number 1 seed. Basically, they're playing, being in good form going to Sioux Falls. Well, St. Thomas was sitting on this game for a while since they played in Fargo, and the Bison won by 3. And what we saw last night was if this team gets hot shooting, talking St. Thomas, ain't nobody going to beat them. Bison, this was about it in terms of how competitive the game was when Damari Wheeler-Thomas hit that 3 to tie it. Because after that, Carter Bierke, the big man from Wayzata, went nuts last night. Corner 3 there. They get the feet around here. You can't leave him open because it's set and shoot. And most of the time, it's going in. You remember he did this earlier this year to the tune of 10 threes. Here, Wheeler Thomas was the only offensive threat the Bison had. Again, St. Thomas already had 14 points when we got to the under 16 timeout. Nick Janowski, the Nebraska transfer, drills a triple. St. Thomas made 10 threes to start this game. Bierke alone, he made 7 threes in the first half. And the onslaught, honestly, was on. Janowski catch and shoot. And this is what they can do. They did not make their shots in Fargo. And that's not taking anything away from the Bison. Bison, I thought, played well defensively that day. Bierke, again, look where this one's from. Nearly the logo. It's a 20-point St. Thomas lead. They added to it. They eventually got up by as many as 30. Another one. He made 8 last night. Did the Wayzata kid. He was fantastic. Wasn't done yet. Again, the lead fluctuated in the second half by as many as 30 to 31. Here it's 23 when Janowski says, I'm going to take Riley Massey to school and lay it up. That made it a 25-point St. Thomas lead. They never trailed, as you see on the graphic in the game. Tommy's roll, 84-62. Worst loss of the season by far for the North Dakota State men, who lose for the second time this season. Were denied a chance to win a school record 11th road game of the year. I mean, offensively, it was nothing good. Damari was 3 of 12. Travion Carson, 2 of 7. Markai Strickland, 1 of 4. Only had 2 points last night. Feddersen was the leading scorer off the bench. You see what Bierke did? He had made 7 threes. You get lost in the fact he made that many. Janowski made 3. St. Thomas was 14 of 35 from three-point range. They cooled off, actually, in the second half because they could not miss in the first half. So, the up-to-date standings now after last night. The Bison are, again, locked into the 1. That will not change no matter what happens tomorrow against UND. But there is some still drama after that. And to try and explain it, you need the Pythagorean theorem. Here's how it will get boiled down to. St. Thomas hosts Omaha tomorrow night. If the Tommies win that game, St. Thomas is the 2 seed. If they lose and UND beats North Dakota State, UND leaps up to the 2 spot. Then after that, we have chaos. You see right now, Omaha is at 8-7. Denver got creamed by Oral Roberts last night. Denver lost by 22 to Oral Roberts for only its 3rd league win of the season. ORU and Kansas City are locked in to the 8-9 game. Whoever wins that is going to play the Bison next Thursday night in Sioux Falls, which is going to be a heck of a game. Because Oral Roberts, you remember, took the Bison to double overtime back in January. Then you have Denver, South Dakota, who beat Omaha, on Wednesday night. Can't figure this league out. Then the Jackrabbits, who won last night against Kansas City. We mentioned 8-9. Now, John Thayer, who's the great radio play-by-play voice of South Dakota, tweeted this out last night. Follow this with me if you can, because this is about as convoluted as it gets. Here's the seed possibilities for down the stretch. If South Dakota and St. Thomas win Saturday, USD is the 4, and they'll play Omaha. If South Dakota, North Dakota, and Omaha win, USD would be the 6, and would play St. Thomas Friday night. If South Dakota, remember the Coyotes are playing the Jacks tomorrow. If South Dakota, NDSU, and Omaha win, the Yotes are the 6, and they would play UND. If South Dakota loses, the Coyotes would be the 7 and play Thursday night against either UND or St. Thomas. It is very convoluted here. Just know this. 1 is locked in. 8 and 9 are locked in. Everything after that is up in the air heading into the final day. And for Bison fans, I'm not sure what to tell you here. Dave Richmond was pretty short and sweet in his radio postgame interview last night with Sam Niederman. They got their butts kicked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the second year in a row that's happened down in St. Paul. You remember the old arena. St. Thomas dusted NDSU last year. Do you say it's a meaningless game? I mean, the Bison couldn't help themselves, and that's not. I'm not trying to take anything away from what St. Thomas did, because they played a great game. But you want to be trending this way towards Sioux Falls. That's what makes tomorrow awfully interesting, because UND's got a ton to play for. We just laid it out. They win. St. Thomas has Omaha. That's not a layup game to wrap up the season tomorrow night. That UND could get all the way up to the 2 spot if they're able to beat the Bison. So maybe you just chalk this one up like, all right, we got this one out of our way, but not great. St. Thomas, when they make their shots like that, look out. We have a packed show coming up for you here on this Friday morning. Our guest lineup is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Coming up, as I mentioned, at 9:35, Mason Klabo will join us, former Fargo Davies, Mr. Basketball last year. He will discuss the crazy situation that he found himself in last week when nothing crazy about it. He needed air, he needed oxygen, and his inhaler was nowhere to be found. And after that, we'll let him tell the story. That's coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, first timer on our show, Joe Beschorner will join us, NDSU quarterbacks coach. Excited to have him join us this morning. Give us the update from Indianapolis as we get ready to see Cole Payton and Bryce Lance on the field tomorrow. They're meeting with the assembled media today. If we get any snippets of that, maybe we can share it in the next hour and 40 minutes or so. But that's coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, I mentioned Rick Neumann will join us, head coach of the UMary women's basketball team. We shared yesterday the All-NSIC honors. He's got 2 first-team players on his team. Marauders are getting set for a trip to Sioux Falls. He'll join us coming up before we wrap up the show at 10:35. So a busy Friday spectacular, ready to rock and roll. We'll take our first break. We come back. We're not done with the highlights. The 2 Minnesota professional teams were playing last night, the Wild and the Wolves. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back, everybody. Again, a reminder, coverage of the North Dakota State Hockey Tournament resumes this morning, 11 a.m. for consolation games. You can find all those on WDAY+. Semifinal for the girls on WDAY for the first time. That comes up at noon. The boys at 5:30. And then, of course, Championship Saturday will get you on the air at 4:30 for the girls' title game, with the boys about a half hour after that. Good stuff. All right, a couple things here, because we didn't want to have our first segment go about 25 minutes, although we've had that happen sometimes. Besides all the local stuff we had going on last night, whether it be hockey, the Cobber women, I didn't even get to all the region championship games. Shout out to Kindred. They won the region 1A title. Thompson took the 2A championship. We got a bunch of state qualifier games. You'll see them on the bottom of our screen on our ticker, highlighting those games in Mayville and in Bismarck tomorrow. On top of all that, we had the Bison and state hockey. The Wild and the Wolves were both playing last night. Their first games, respectively, at least for the Minnesota Wild, since the Olympic break. And we went to the break. The Wild were the hottest team in the NHL. They had moved into second place in their division, just trailing Colorado, which is the best division in hockey. They have the 3 best teams in hockey in that division, with Colorado, Minnesota, and Dallas. And as luck would have it, who would open up the second half of the season with? The Wild were playing in Colorado last night. Now, remember, the Avalanche played Wednesday night, so on the back end of a back-to-back, Minnesota coming in relatively fresh. They showed it early. 1-1 game, power play goal tapped home there. It's a nifty feed across, and you're trying to defend a Kaprizov there. I don't know what you're supposed to do. That gets credit for the goal. It's 2-1. Same score here in the second. Matt Zuccarello scores, makes it a 3-1 Minnesota lead. Now, the Avalanche have a power play. They pulled their goaltender. You've got the Shen goal, the shorthanded empty netter for Matt Boldy. Minnesota Wild go to Colorado and hammer the Avalanche. 5-2, the final score. Now, when that game wrapped up, flipped over, I'm like, hey, the Wolves are playing out in L.A. against the Clippers, against a team that was shorthanded last night. Ant soaring, dunking, 2-point Minnesota lead. I watched the game on Prime was We had Michael Grady last night, felt just like at home. Dante, midair pass, drain triple. That looked pretty good there. Gives the Wolves a 71-70 lead from Bones Highland making a big-time play. Here, Jaden McDaniels picks up the loose ball, gives it to Nas for the thunder dunk. It's 78-74. Minnesota. Again, the Clippers playing shorthanded last night, but they're in the playoff mix here. Later in the second half, it's a 1-point lead. McDaniels drives an and one again. When he goes, Wolves are pretty darn good. That makes it a 3-point Minnesota lead. Clippers hung around. Jordan Miller drives. How about almost falling down, almost behind his back. Watch this again. This is really good. That made it 83-81. It's a 3-point game now. Benedict Mathurin, who they got from the Pacers, drives and scores. Now it's a 1-point game. Clippers aren't going away. That was nifty up and under on Rudy. But who would be the guy to make the clutch shot? Who do you think it is? Step back corner 3 from Anthony Edwards. How did he make that? There's guys all over him. Because he's Ant. He had 38 last night. Wolves win it 94-88 and get a big-time road win. One in Portland. Now they won in L.A. here on this road trip. The up-to-date West standings, the Wolves now have a 2-game lead. The Lakers lost again last night. The Lakers have lost 3 in a row. So L.A.'s 2 games behind Minnesota. The Wolves are just a half game behind Denver for 4th and just a game behind Houston for 3rd. Meanwhile, the Spurs have won 11 in a row. They are now just a game and a half back of OKC. Remember when we thought that was over and Oklahoma City was going to win like 74 games this year? Suddenly, the Spurs are the hottest thing going with Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox. How do they do this? I mean, they get number 1 picks. They got David Robinson. Number 1 pick, they got Tim Duncan. They got Manu Ginobili. They found Tony Parker. They got Kawhi Leonard. And they got another number 1, and they got Wemby. And he's just unstoppable. That's the update from the NBA. Also from the NBA, we reported yesterday, our good friend Mike McFeely broke the story that Grant Nelson may be getting a call-up to the NBA. Well, news broke this morning. Actually, his agent broke the story. You can see the tweet now that the Brooklyn Nets are signing Grant Nelson to a 10-day contract. His agent, Max Webking of Gersh Sports, told Hoops Hype, Nelson has averaged 11 points on 55% shooting from the field and 6 rebounds with the Long Island Nets in the G League. So the Devils Lake native, former Bison standout, Alabama star, who got the Crimson Tide to the national championship game a couple years ago, is on his way to the NBA. The Nets play at Boston tonight, so let's keep our eyes on that. I know there's a ton of us watch Brooklyn Nets basketball, but we got a reason to. Grant's on his way to the NBA. They play Friday at Boston, and then they're home Sunday afternoon, for the Cavs. Good for him. I mean, he's prototypical. His ability to shoot, his ability to get to the basket, certainly his athletic ability around the basket we've seen time and time again. So congrats to Grant Nelson. He's on his way to the NBA. Good stuff last night there. Shout out to our guy Mike. He was all over that to get that story in-house. So good stuff. Couple things here before we break and we hear the ridiculous Mason Klabo story coming up here in just a few minutes. So I mentioned we're going to have Joe Beschorner join us later on in the show, NDSU QB coach who was with Cole Payton in Nashville, actually, for the Walter Payton ceremony. Just getting a couple things here as Payton is visiting officially with the media this morning. Cole said that he has met with the Chicago Bears. That had to be surreal for him. Payton's a diehard Bears fan. Has told us that a couple of times. So that'd be interesting to see what they do there if Chicago decides to do that. He's had formal combine meetings with the Bears and the Lions. So 2 NFC North teams are visiting with the Bison quarterback. Just reading a couple other tweets about him here. Dual threat quarterback who could probably see the field early in his career as a package player, read options, play action passes, etc. A creative coordinator could certainly find a use for him as he develops his pocket presence. Not surprisingly, he says the Bears and Lions have shown the most interest so far. He'd be a nice piece for Ben Johnson, who, of course, is the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So it is on. Again, tomorrow is the big day when he's actually out there to do the testing. As we heard, we visited with Carlton Lance yesterday, Bryce's dad, who gave us the lowdown there, which was great stuff. If you missed that, go back and listen to our podcast. You can re-watch the interviews as well on Inforum and on YouTube. That it's going to be surreal tomorrow night, because that's when the wide receivers go, to see Cole Payton throwing to Bryce Lance in the drills, because that just doesn't happen. QBs normally aren't going with their wide receivers. Very rarely does that happen. Normally, we're talking about on the quarterback angle of it, though, they're trying to build rapport with guys they've never thrown to, and the wide receivers adjusting to guys that have never thrown them the ball. Well, NDSU has a distinct advantage apparently at the combine with those guys both being there. Also, I saw a stat out of the conferences represented at the combine this year. The Mountain West has 3 players there. North Dakota State has 2. So just, again, we're talking about fitting in and the adjustment to the next level. They're going to be A-OK on that. Pretty good stuff. Much more on that coming up in our second hour. Joe Beschorner will join us, and we'll get it, what he's heard, who's talked to him. I'm sure there's been some teams that have called him up, so we'll get into that coming up in our second hour. All right, we'll break now. We come back. You got to hear it to believe it, folks. The crazy story on Fargo Davies standout Illinois State freshman Mason Klabo on what he needed to do last week. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back, everybody. Friday morning edition of Hot Mike off for our own final show of the week. Looking forward to a packed weekend. Pick your poison of what we got going on here locally, whether it be hockey. There's a slightly large doubleheader on the north side of town. We'll tell you all about that before we wrap things up here on this Friday. So last week we shared the story. We got wind of it. Shout out to former Cheyenne boys basketball coach Tom Kirchhoffner. Sent me the clip last Wednesday night. And I watched him like, what? And we played the interview with Illinois State men's basketball coach Ryan Peden last Thursday morning, I want to say, where he described what happened to one of his players, being Fargo native, reigning Mr. Basketball Mason Klabo, during the Redbirds game with Murray State, which ended up being a pretty significant Illinois State victory, where Mason was on the bench, actually was in the game, came out of the game, was struggling to breathe. He's dealt with asthma his entire life, and needed his inhaler. Problem was, inhaler wasn't in his locker, wasn't in the physical arena. Had to actually leave the arena, go to his dorm room in full uniform, mind you, to get it, and then return to the game. His head coach knew nothing about this until, and you're going to hear this, Mason told one of his teammates, and the old telephone game worked. Teammate told assistant coach told associate head coach told the head coach, who then told the assembled media afterwards, and then story got out. Remarkably, and I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, no one locally has talked to Mason about this. We did on Monday. So with that, the story from one Mason Klabo about what happened last week in Normal.
Well, yeah, so like this time of year, it's a little different here than up north, but like the weather's starting to change here, and it was about like 60 degrees that day. And when the weather changes, my asthma usually gets pretty bad. So usually like, back home, it's the springtime, it's the March, April, but here it's February. And, it's something I usually play through. I can play through, but that game was different, and just kind of started off, early on, I could feel my breathing starting to get, it's just, when you have asthma, you can start feeling in your lungs. And next thing you know, it's about the end of the half, and I'm like, this is really bad. Like, I got to go get my inhaler. That's at my dorm. And like we tried using the inhaler we had at like for the trainers, that's just like a rescue one, but like I just needed a kind of a stronger one that I had in my dorm. And so I, it was the last 4 minute media timeout, and I went to my assistant. I'm like, hey, I got to go get my inhaler. And I assume he figured it was just in my locker, but I knew it was in my dorm. So I booked it and I sprinted and I just went right to the dorm. And our dorm is right next to the arena. So I can look out my window right now and see the arena. So it's just across the street. But so I sprinted, I got out there and I got let myself in with my ID and went up there, grabbed it right away. And I took a puff and ran right back. And there's people outside, yelling at me, what am I doing? I got a game because I'm in full uniform. So when I did run back, I actually put a hoodie on just so I would get a less attention running back. But yeah, next thing you know, I came back, I got back. So I left, there's like 3:30 left on the clock for that 4-minute media. And I got back with a minute left, like a minute one. So I got back pretty quick of game time, but yeah. And then next thing you know, I took a couple of inhaler puffs at halftime and feeling good as new.
All of that is wild. Have you ever brought it to the arena before, your inhaler, or you just never thought about doing it?
Yeah, it's usually in my backpack, but like when you got the home games, it's just like you don't really think you got all the stuff there in your locker room. And like I said, I usually don't need to use this type of inhaler that I have in my dorm. I could just use the rescue one; it'll be fine. The one that the trainers have, but yeah, just for some reason the asthma was kicking more than usual.
Okay, so you leave here, you're in full uniform, right? And I'm familiar with where the arena is and where your dorm is. So does anybody see you like when you were going to your dorm?
Yeah, so of course it was like student athlete honor roll halftime showing. So every student athlete who's on the honor roll is in like the exit route for me to get out. So I see every student athlete that's going out there at halftime to get introduced for being on the honor roll. So they all see me and, wondering why the heck am I running out full uniform, shoes on and everything. And then there's just students, just walking back to their dorm at night, just walking on the sidewalk from our quad to our dorm. And they were giving me the worst. They're like, what are you doing? Like, why you got a game? Just give me all this stuff. So yeah, of course it had to be like the student athlete night where every single student athlete was just in the exit, just watching me run out full uniform outside.
How many floors up is where your dorm is?
Second floor. So
okay, so did you go upstairs then, I'm assuming?
Just booked it up the stairs, yeah.
And did you know right where it was, your inhaler? You didn't have to search for it, right?
Right. So that's like another thing that went into too is like, why don't you ask a manager? Or I have 2 redshirt freshmen who are my roommates. Like, why don't you and I get crossed my mind, but like I'd have to tell them where my dorm is, where it's at. I just kind of knew I'd be the fastest one to get it. Yeah. So people give me grief about that too, but I was like, I just knew if I just booked it right now, I can get back quicker than anyone else that I told me to go get it.
All right. So you take the inhaler. Is that when you grab the hoodie? Is that like when did?
So
okay.
So I got here and I was like, still feeling it because I just sprinted. Like it wasn't, it wasn't a walk. It was a sprint here. And so I took a puff and I'm like, I'm going to put a hoodie on quick too. So I just threw a hoodie on and sprinted right back out.
And it was full bore sprint back?
Yeah, it was a full sprint to get back. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned how little of the time went back. Did your teammates, did they even know what happened?
No, I'm assuming they all thought I went to the locker room just for, a quick second. Cause I came back pretty quick, but I think in the second half, we're kind of just sitting on the bench and I told one of our teammates, I had to run to my dorm to get that. And, they're like, what? And the next thing you know, I think he told the coach told the coach, and then everyone figured out it. Cause I didn't want Coach Peden to know. I wasn't planning on telling him. And next thing you know, I go on Twitter that night and I see it's all over Twitter. So
I had no knowledge of this till afterwards, but he told the assistant coaches, don't put me in. I got to go get my inhaler. So the coaches were thinking, he's going to his locker. He's running to his locker to get his inhaler. We find out afterwards, he forgot to bring his inhaler to the gym. So he ran out of SEFQ, out of the loading dock, over to Tri-Towers, up to the second floor to his dorm room in his uniform. And I said, you didn't put a sweatshirt on or a coat? He said, no, I just ran out. He left his door open, I guess, and he didn't even need a key. So we ran over there. And I mean, I've heard of a lot of stories in my 26 years. I have never heard of a player running back to his dorm in his full uniform, and he made it back. We could have subbed him back in before the end of the half after he got his inhaler.
Coach Peaton finds out, and then he tells the media there. Then take it from there. Did your phone blow up after that?
Well, yeah, well, I deleted Twitter, so I didn't even have Twitter at this time because I didn't want, like, I just don't even want to go on it during the season, so I deleted it. And next thing you know, I get a call from Peaton that night, and I just thought he was saying, like, it was a good win. I thought he was just going to talk about the win, and he's like, I want you to tell my wife and my son the story. And then he goes, I told the media you should probably look at Twitter. So next thing you know, I downloaded Twitter just to see what's going on, and yeah, it was blowing up.
Did you get a call from back home, or tell me about what they heard? Your parents
yeah, a lot of people like I haven't talked to in like years, sending me the Facebook and the Twitter links, and I don't know, it's funny. It's good to talk to people that I haven't talked to in a while. It's a good conversation starter, but yeah, I don't think Peaton expected that to blow up as much as it did when he told all those camera crew guys it.
Were you like anytime, was it like worried for your health, or was this you knew it and it wasn't, if you let it go it was going to get worse?
Yeah, like if I let it go, like I've had asthma my whole life, and it's been, yeah, like I've been in the hospital for it and stuff, and like I just kind of know my body, and like there's games prior to that, probably 2 games prior, I felt it, and it was just a little, like I could feel my lungs, but it was playable. Like this one was like, nah, like I need to go, I gotta go get it, like, or else it's gonna get really bad, and so I did, yeah.
You mentioned you heard from people you haven't heard from forever. What's been like the most outrageous reaction or just crazy that person you've heard from the last couple of days?
Well, like, I don't know, like just like everyone, the worst part about it is like some of the posts say like I ran across campus, so people thought I left and ran, because our campus is pretty big. Like, yeah, there's dorms, 20-minute walk, 15-minute walk across campus. Like people thought I did that. I was like, I know it's just right across the street. Like I was back in 5 minutes.
That make the story better though, right?
It does, yeah. It adds to it for sure.
So now the couple days afterwards, give me the aftermath. What has this been like being with the guys? Are they still busting your chops? What's the last few days been like?
Yeah, we just went to Bradley. They're make sure you got your inhaler, just all those jokes. And the funny part is like, I sit in the same spot in one of my classes all semester, and, no one ever talks to me, and I just, listen. And next thing you know, that next day, these guys in front of me, sitting in front of me, turn around and show me the Twitter post. Like, is this actually true? And people come up to me in the dining hall, and so that's kind of the funny part. Just, talking to people I've never talked to on campus here, and they see a tweet and thinking it's hilarious.
I'm sure you thought your biggest moment would be on the court for your freshman year. I mean, how is this like not derailed it, but like, boy, this is definitely going to be maybe the most memorable thing you do there.
Right. That's like, that was kind of the thing. Like, right in the first 12 hours, I was kind of not mad, but just like, I wish I went viral for a basketball moment, not an off court thing. But now I've just kind of bought into it. It's good for the university too. There's people out there talking about Illinois State, so it's pretty fun. Yeah, I'm into it now. Right away I was like, kind of annoyed of it, but it's cool now. It's awesome.
I talked to you before the season got going. Tell me about how this has gone on the court. Are you playing more than you thought, and just how the transition to Division I has gone.
Yeah, started off a little weird the first couple of games, then we had a really good streak where we just kept winning and winning, and you know how it is in conference play. It's up and down, and lately we've been up and down, and we're just trying to find our groove here to hit it off strong in St. Louis. But it's been really good. Like, Division I basketball is difficult, not even just the court stuff, but off the court, the traveling. So, just your first year of getting used to all of it, it's been really enjoyment. And, these guys, just like I always talk about, just the teammates I have are just, great. They've helped us. We got a lot of older guys that just, help us young guys get through it. And the coaches have been great. So it's been a great first year. And, we're hoping to, make a run here at the end of March or end of February and early March.
Have you played, Mason, more than you thought, or contributed even more than you thought going back to September, October?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. It was difficult right away. You just never know as a freshman, like especially with a bunch of older guys on your team, like, what's your role going to be? And, if you're going to get minutes. And right away I started off playing 3-4 minutes a game, just trying to find a role, trying to produce, for the team. And next thing you know, you just add a little bit more, and a little bit more. And, grateful now. Past 5-6 games I've been starting, and I found this role for myself that helps this team win and helps this team go. So, just a lot of learning in that. Just, it's not North Dakota, Davies basketball where you're getting the 20 shots a game and the offense run through. You just got to try to find your role and, succeed at a high level and just, play for your teammates and play for your team and try to win much games you can. And, luckily I kind of found that in the middle of the year, and now I'm trying to, just keep going and keep being great at my role.
I think Bison fans they obviously know Illinois State from the instances in football, which I got to ask about that being in the mix of that. But what can you tell us about Missouri Valley basketball? We know a little bit of it. You lived it. What is it comparable to the Summit League? Is it way better? Give me you're in it. You're living it. Give us the download on that.
I wish I would have, we didn't play any Summit League teams in non-conference, so I wish I could have, felt a little bit of a Summit League game. But I just know, from what I've experienced and the Missouri Valley, it's the margin we always talk about is this much. If you don't show up this much, you're gonna get beat. And unfortunately we've had some of those moments, but I think the physicality in the Valley is something that I didn't know of until I got here. There's a lot of physical guys, a lot of bruiser guys, and it's not as fast paced as you'd think. It's a lot of slow down, run the offense, but defensively, that's the main focus here in this conference is you got to defend the hole, and you got to defend the arc, and you got to be physical in between everything else. And that's something that I've learned quickly. And I'm assuming, the Summit League just the same, but like I said, I wish I would have played a Summit League, team or, anyone just to see the difference or see the similarities between the two.
All right. So I know you've been to some Bison football games. So tell me, were you guys playing that day when Illinois State beat them? And what was that reaction like for you personally?
Yeah, what time was that? Do you remember what time that game was?
The game was a noon game. It was a noon kickoff here.
Yeah, so we were having our pregame meal. So we were playing. Yeah, we were having our pregame meal.
Oh, that's right. You guys played that night. That's right.
That night, yeah. So we had that. It was the fourth quarter when our pregame meal on. So it was on our TVs and stuff. And Illinois State won. And yeah, we played that night. So then they came back at halftime and they walked on the court and everyone went crazy. And yeah, it was a weird moment for, Scumberg and I, just being in between both and, having friends that play for us and family that played for NDSU and then being a part of it. It's just who do you cheer for type of thing. And so it was a cool moment. It was cool for, our college too, just because of, the success NDSU's had and, going up there and winning. And it was a really big moment, I know for sure, for fans here and the campus here. It was cool to see.
What was it like to see them go all the way to Nashville? I mean, that had to be, you guys were pulling along with a ride with that, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're close with those football guys too. So it was cool. It was just a Cinderella story that no one really thought. They snuck in, and it was just such a cool thing for this campus. You could tell the fans really rallied behind it and really traveled with them, and it was really cool to see them. Yeah, obviously play in Nashville and come so close to it.
I was just actually talking with Coach Manson. I think the night of when the inhaler incident happened, how much have you had a chance to just connect back here? I know you're in the zone, but this is the time of the year when things start to get crazy. EDC title up for grabs. Just how much can you connect still when you're now knee deep in this?
Yeah, no, me and Manson still talk. We were probably on the phone for 30, 40 minutes yesterday even. So we're still talking, and I'm still, trying to watch as much YouTube games or, if you guys stream those Davies games, trying to get on as much as I can. But, we're busy here. Our practices are in the afternoon and our games are usually aligned with that too. But yeah, no, I still stay in touch with a lot of those Davies guys and a lot of Davies coaches, and still, listening, watching, hearing what they got to say. And obviously, EDC State's coming up, and it's a tough top 3, top 4 teams there in the EDC, I can tell. So
last thing, bud, and I really appreciate the time. If I would have told you this is what freshman year is going to be 12 months ago, would you have believed me this is what it was going to be like?
No, for sure not. Yeah, it's a lot different. Yeah, just how the off season, how they got to retain all these guys and keep them, and we only lost one guy to the portal to, coming in with all these older guys. They're all healthy. They, battling the summer. Yeah, I would never expected to be where I'm at, and I'm pretty blessed, pretty grateful.
What have you heard about Arch Madness in St. Louis?
I've heard just a great time. It's awesome. You gotta play back to back to back. Hopefully only 3 games, but maybe even 4. And you got to try to win it there on that Sunday, and it's on CBS. That last game, and it's a battle. But I've heard it's just a great time, and it's always fun and it's always memorable. So I'm excited about it.
You think some road teams gave you a hard time now with inhalers in the crowd or anything like that? You foresee that coming?
I'm excited to hear. I'm excited to see what they got to say. Like we played Bradley, in a sold out crowd this Saturday, and that's our rivals. And I didn't hear it. They probably were saying it, but I didn't hear anything. I was expecting some of the guys on the sideline to say something, but I'm assuming that there'll be something. Yeah, hopefully there will be. It'll be funny.
Conversation there with Mason Klabo, who took it in stride. Just a ridiculous story that got some nationwide play after Illinois State's win over Murray State. Redbirds are playing well. They just beat Northern Iowa and Ben Jacobson's team on Wednesday. Mason has started the last 7 games for Illinois State. Something to keep our eyes on here. They have their final game of the regular season coming up this weekend, and then Arch Madness begins the same time the Summit League basketball tournament gets going in Sioux Falls. Arch Madness gets going in St. Louis. We'll be keeping our eyes on not only him, obviously he's playing with another North Dakotan and Bowden Scunberg. Fun to see those guys playing down at Illinois State. Cool basketball story. Just a wild story there. All right, let's break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. Joe Beschorner coming up in our second hour, plus the wild story going on at Cal Baptist. We'll do that when hour 2 rolls on. That's coming up when we come back on this Friday.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Don Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 ready to rock and roll here on this Friday morning. Final hour of the week. We would, of course, we're not going to get away from talking football. I know everything's going on. We got tournaments all over the place. Summer League tournament starts next week. We're going to be in Sioux Falls a week from today. We're excited about that. But no shortage of ball talk, especially when the combine is going on, and even more so when there are 2 guys going. And at the skill spots of all places, with Cole Payton and Bryce Lance, they'll be on the field tomorrow. Quarterbacks go during the afternoon. The wide receivers go tomorrow night. Also, we have to have a special bell here because of all the Bison football staff members, this is the last one we haven't had on. I hope he doesn't hold that against me. Joe Beschorner joins us, NDSU's QB coach here. And he's only been coaching up there for 6 years, so don't hold that. I thought that last night when I texted you. I'm like, oh, my gosh. We've had everybody but – so I'm assuming if you want to hang up, you can, man. That's fine.
I'm supposed to say a long-time listener, first-time caller, right?
Absolutely. That will work.
Yeah, there we go. No, I appreciate you guys having me on. I don't hold it against you. My mom always said I had a face for radio, so that was why we never had Zoom.
Same here, bud. I got told that by a couple of TV professors, so we won't hold it against anybody. But it's great to chat. We were just visiting off air. Are you a combine? Do you take it in normally or only now when you got a couple of guys there?
Every single year, it's just something that's fascinating. It's, I know our players watch it and talk about it. 'Cause it's everybody's, it's their dream. They want to know where they need to be and what people are looking at. And plus, it's just fun to see how much better these guys have gotten every year.
Yeah. You played ball. What drill would you do? Which one would you say, hey, this is the one I could ace?
I barely played ball. There's no drill that anyone would want to watch me. Who's the guy who runs the 40? Rich Eisen?
Rich Eisen does it, yes. Yep.
He'd probably beat me. So there's no drills that I want to do. There's no drills that anybody wants to see me do either.
Well, how about for your guys here? Which of the drills are you most looking forward to see Cole and Bryce do tomorrow?
Well, I'm really excited to watch them do the position stuff, the throwing, the routes, all that fun stuff. I'm excited to see what number Bryce is going to put out there for a broad jump.
Yeah.
I've seen it in person. It's impressive. I want to see what Cole's will do for his vertical because I've seen that in person. It's impressive. We don't time 40s here, so I'm just curious to see how they'll run. That's the one that probably most people get excited about because that's the one that they kind of know the most. But I'm excited to see Cole vertical and Bryce broad jump.
So when we were in Nashville, I asked Cole about what drill you're looking for. He said the vertical. Obviously we've seen him jump over dudes. He can't do that in the NFL, but is this something that, what appeals to NFL teams if he has a really good vertical?
I think it just shows your overall explosiveness, your power, the ability, you're jumping off 2 feet. So that snap, that explosiveness, I think that's something that – plus, I've seen him do it, I think it was last year at this time, right before we went on spring break when our guys were testing out. It was pretty impressive.
So to have a quarterback wide receiver combo. I mean, you've watched this. This has got to be uncommon, right? Normally QBs go there and they have to adjust because they're throwing to guys they've never thrown to before. That is not going to be the case with these two tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that hopefully they're paired in the same group. I haven't heard whether they will or will not be. Yeah, it's exciting for those guys. I mean, it's obviously really fun to do this on your own, but now when you get to do it with a teammate and a guy that you've come into NDSU with and you've laid that foundation with, and to be able to enjoy that together, it's exciting.
So, Joe, give us the lowdown from, since the season ended. What have you heard from the scouts? What have they asked you? What have they asked NDSU about Cole? And what are the questions they want to get answered tomorrow?
I think that a lot of the questions that they had about Cole were going into the season. Can this guy play quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, from August until December, he answered those questions for those scouts. And now it's, 1 year starter. What is his ceiling? What does he struggle with? What are his strengths and weaknesses? Those are the questions that they're asking us as coaches. But everyone who I've talked to went from, in the fall camp when they come around in August, hey, can this guy play quarterback? To, okay, what does this guy do well at quarterback? What does he need to work on at quarterback? So that first question has been answered. The questions that I don't get a ton of questions about Bryce, obviously Crutch and Coach Polisek and Coach Larson get those questions, but the other things they've asked about, Bryce, they always want to know about kids' football IQ, how they are, because they see them at practice when they come and watch practice. They obviously watch the games. They see how they play. They want to know, how do they learn? Are they a football junkie? Are they in the facility all the time? Are they watching tape? Are they coming with questions? And both those guys are. So those questions are going to be answered.
How much do you think that information, when they're here at fall camp, does that filter to the teams that they're not asking, I guess, the same stuff now when the guys are there? I know that's maybe an impossible question for you to know, but for the base work that they're doing here when they're here in August, do they have on file, I guess, in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think they keep everything.
Yeah.
With the way that their organizations are structured and how it gets filtered down, I think, and it's a lot easier. It used to be on a legal pad. Now it's, everybody's got an iPad and everything's saved.
Yeah.
So all that information is kind of put into a kid's file, and from the GMs to the scouting report to the scouting department to the position coaches, coordinators, and head coach, they have all this information on these kids.
So Cole mentioned he's being interviewed today in Indianapolis that the Bears and the Lions he's already met with them. I know all 32 teams came up here. Does that strike you, or are those teams that showed interest way back in August?
I think twofold. I think one, what he has done, throughout the season in the building his resume keeps everybody interested. And then I also think that for Bryce or Cole or any NDSU football player, the foundation that's been laid by this program from the history of how kids have gone and done and succeeded, that's helped as much as anything.
I was going to say, the Bison have done well in Indianapolis. That blueprint, it's not an unknown quantity or an unknown program. The NFL certainly knows about the players that come out of Fargo.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it goes back to from the quarterback standpoint, just all the way back from, Walker to Jensen to Wentz to Stick to Lance to Miller to now hopefully we'll get it again with Cam.
You think about that, that sounds outrageous, doesn't it, when you say that out loud?
It does. It does sound outrageous, but I think that it speaks for itself too.
The fact that NDSU's name is going to be out here, Joe, the next couple of days, and granted, it obviously has been for the last couple of weeks, which I want to get to on the Mountain West here in a second. But again, it goes to show what kind of players are coming out of here. And I just go back a couple of years ago when Cody Mauck was there, and how magnetic he is, and just everyone gravitated to him. And then Gray went and dominated last year. It's almost become the Senior Bowl is the introduction nationwide. The Combine, then it's Chapter 2, and then after that, we find out the NFL draft, these teams really like these players.
I think that, the way that these kids have been raised in the program to go and to just compete from the first snap to the last snap, to play, extremely tough through the echo of the whistle. And they're always just improving. That's from you see the Senior Bowl, then you see them improve at the draft, and then by the time they get to mini camp, and then they get to fall camp, and it's just a constant, trajectory of improving.
Describe for you this season, and obviously how tightly you work with Cole. Was there a game, practice, you said, he's got it, we're gonna be A-okay? Is there a moment that sticks out in your mind?
We struggled early in fall camp just with our 2-minute drill. And then when we finally put a couple of them together, and it wasn't, the quarterback, it was just as you're coming together in unison as an offense, that I thought, okay, we have a handle on this. We're going to be okay. And the other thing is, obviously we all know he's a tremendous athlete. I mean, we saw what he did as a ball carrier and, the limited snaps he had as a passer, but then he was able to put all that together and know when to use, your legs and when to use your arm. That's been fun to see.
Well, the fact he had number 5 to throw to didn't hurt either. With having Bryce out there, not necessarily as a safety net, but we got to see Cole's ability to throw down the field because Bryce was able to make those plays throughout 2025.
Yeah, it's ironic that you're saying that. We have a high school staff in here that's visiting, and we're talking about, our 4 vertical concept, and I'm going through how our progression is, and he threw one down the sideline. I can't remember who it was to Bryce, and it wasn't exactly the best. It wasn't, the picture perfect read. It was, but the coach from the other school looks at me and goes, "Sometimes you throw it to your best guy." I go, "That's really good coaching. Let's have one of our best players throw it to one of our other best players."
Was there a catch that you still think about, like, wow, how did he do that? I mean, the South Dakota State game, obviously the semifinal a couple of years ago comes to my mind. How about for you? Was there one like, wow, how did that happen?
Yeah, that South Dakota State game was that 2 years ago or last year. That catch in the corner of the north east corner of the end zone was phenomenal. There's one in practice. Obviously, no one got to see this in practice where he, contorted his body and kind of almost the old school. I shouldn't say old school. It's not that long ago, but Odell Beckham when he grabbed it with one hand. He did this running down the seam, and just stayed on his feet. Ooh. And he's Gumby-esque. He can contort his body in tons of ways.
Obviously, catching the ball is number one. What, in your mind, appeals to the NFL about Bryce? Is it speed, athleticism, all above? What, in your mind, makes the NFL say, we got to take this guy?
I think it's a combination of his length. He's not going to be the tallest, but he has long levers. He's got long arms. His ability to adjust to the football. He's highly competitive. And he has really good ball skills. He's not going to be the fastest guy. He's not going to be the slowest guy. But he doesn't slow down. And the other thing that I think is really impressive is he's probably as fast on play 30 as he was on play 1. He can run forever.
That is wild on that. Just the ability to go up and get the ball. That to me is the part I always just shake my head at and just like, how did he make that play? That's just over the last couple of years, you've just gotten used to that. Now, you're a football guy. I have to ask, all I'm hearing now is arm length. Is arm length the new hand size? Was everybody talking about at the combine now?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that. We look at arm length. We do.
Yeah.
But I also think in the NFL, these guys are trying to devalue the other guys as much as they can too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right? I want to try to get the best possible. It's like going to buy a car. You're going to go to the car dealership and you don't want to pay full price, right? I want to make sure I can nickel and dime it and get it for as cheap as I can. So I think you're going to look and critique any little thing that you can find. The other thing too is they're trying to play as many mind games with these kids as they can.
Right.
To try to see
correct.
if they can get them to crack and get frustrated. But as a competitor, it's just going to be a chip on your shoulder that you're going to try to go above and beyond to overcome it.
Well, that to me also, they're playing mind games with other teams, right? They want to drive down we're not interested in this guy, and then they go and take him.
Yeah, throw the dog off the scent for sure.
It's just, it is dog-eat-dog business now, and it's big business. It's the National Football League. There's no doubt about it. All right, so I got to ask here, from a couple weeks ago, the Friday night shot that went out, were you in the loop on this? Or it seemed like the loop was pretty tight on the Mountain West. When did you find out?
When you found out. I mean, you hear things, right? You hear I found out when everyone else found out.
Yeah.
Now I want to find out who we're going to play so we can get rolling.
You can't break that for us? You don't have that info you can share with us?
I do not. I wish we had that info. Then we could start working on. We obviously know who we're playing in conference. That came out.
Yep.
Non-con, I have no idea.
So describe competition level and just the adjustment where you knew FCS. This is a brand new world. How do you approach that for getting ready for spring football here in a couple weeks?
The same, right? I mean, we know it's going to be more competitive, right? That the game's going to be faster, so we have to sharpen our sword even a little bit more. It's got to be just a little bit more every single day. Our kids are excited. There's a lot of excitement in the building, and we're fired up about it.
Got me for people that have not seen Nathan Hayes maybe a lot. You've got to work with him. Give us the 10,000 foot breakdown on Nathan and what Bison fans should get to expect about their new starting quarterback.
Well, who said he's going to be the new starting quarterback? We got other guys in the room that we got to give everybody an opportunity to.
I said it, so you can throw me under the bus. I said it, so.
Your assumption that he's going to be the starting quarterback.
Yes.
You're going to get Nate's highly competitive. He loves football. He's going to work his tail off to be the best version of himself and be a great teammate to the guys that are around him.
How about for your other QBs? Give us the lowdown on that for maybe how the rest of the room is shaking out right now.
Yeah, I mean, in the room right now, we've got Trey Drake, we've got Xander Smith, and Preston Brown. And they're doing an unbelievable job this offseason with, the physical standpoint of getting bigger, faster, stronger, leaner. They're meeting on their own. We're meeting a little bit with what we have for time. I know they're doing a lot of stuff on their own to continue to develop and the knowledge of the playbook and the things that we require our quarterback to do. So they're having a lot of fun with it.
How much can you actually meet with the guys, if at all, between now, when the season ended to when spring ball starts?
Well, I mean, you have 8 hours is what you get from an off-season standpoint a week, and it's broken down between strength and conditioning, your movement stuff, other stuff that we're doing as a team. So it varies from week to week depending on how much we're using with Knapp and those guys. So we obviously want to develop those guys as much as we can physically and save as much room as we can to help them mentally too. So that's why they have a calendar of things that they're doing on their own. But it's roughly about a half hour, 45 minutes. Now, your brother was at Northern Illinois. Can you get a little scoop on DeKalb? Like, did he give you so that you know what to expect? I know it's been a little bit, but to expect what NIU has to bring to the table? That was a year ago.
Yeah.
So they've had quite a bit of turnover, obviously, with a new head coach and that kind of stuff. They'll be competitive. Every team's going to be competitive. Everybody wants to win. Everybody's going to do the things they're supposed to be doing, especially throughout the offseason, is just who's going to do it a little bit more better, who's going to continue to improve, who's going to be a little bit more intentional with it. And I think, what team is going to become the most connected team that, they're going to do a really good job of playing for each other.
Last thing, bud, I really appreciate you doing this. Recruiting-wise now, it's a big time. I can't remember the timetable now if you can talk to anybody or not, but how has those conversations changed in the last couple weeks after this announcement is gone? Is the phone ringing more now from prospects that maybe you couldn't talk to beforehand?
Yeah, I think that there's some ears that you're able to bend that you weren't able to bend before.
Yeah.
And I think it'll continue to do that as once the full schedule comes out, people see who you're playing, and you might be able to get into a couple neighborhoods that you weren't able to get into before. And it's really exciting for the kids that we were previously recruiting or continuing to recruit. I think that helps you get, maybe your hooks in there a little bit deeper, your grasp a little bit stronger. So there's excitement.
This was great, bud. I appreciate it. We won't do it 6 years between again, okay? I promise.
I had hair when we started this.
I appreciate you doing this today. Have a great weekend. Are you going to the Hoops game tomorrow? We can see you at Hoops?
I'm fired up for the Hoops game. We better get the shack packed. I have a parents' weekend.
Oh, here we go.
To go. I'm going to be a dad. I do some parents' weekend down for my daughter's sorority. So.
Nice. Very good. Awesome. Yeah. You enjoy that, and we'll talk soon, okay?
It. All right, take care.
Joe Beschorner joining us, NDSU QB coach here, getting us ready for the NFL Combine. We mentioned Cole Payton tomorrow afternoon on the field. Bryce Lance tomorrow night. Goes through Sunday. in Indianapolis. NFL Network has the blanket coverage on that, and we will be back on Monday to unpack all of how they performed this weekend. That should be some dynamite viewing coming up tomorrow. All right, we'll break. We come back. If you remember earlier this year, the Bison wrestling team wrestled Cal Baptist, and there's been a heck of a lot of drama around that. We'll get into that, get some emails in as well as our Friday morning edition of Hot Mic returns after this. Well, we teased it when we went to break. Don't forget, tomorrow should be a great environment, hopefully a packed house at the Shield Center for the regular season finale for the Bison basketball teams. Bison women against UND at 1. Bison women win that. They're going to cut the nets down as the outright Summit champions. The Bison men to follow at 4. Join us live tomorrow on WDAY Extra. So yesterday, just going about, and I'm watching the hockey games and doing a couple things to get ready for the broadcast tomorrow, and I end up finding Pat Forty, I think, subtweeted the video we're about to play. Now, there's audio with it. It's kind of hard to hear, so we're not going to play the audio, but if you remember back in January, North Dakota State wrestling team hosted Cal Baptist. We televised the match here on Extra. I did the match, and when everything wrapped up that day, the two teams took photos together, and we were able to grab video of them on the wrestling mat together. And they came out, and Cal Baptist was wearing warm-up shirts throughout the pre-match saying, "Save Cal Baptist Wrestling." And they posed with a photo with NDSU to do the same. And this is what happened post-match back in January to keep CBU wrestling. A really cool moment of solidarity. There are only so many wrestling teams in the country, especially in California. And we haven't really gotten clear word, because it happened in early January that the school announced that they were eliminating the wrestling program along with a couple other programs. Cal Baptist is moving conferences after this season. Well, yesterday, this video surfaced from the Cal Baptist wrestlers as they met with the associate AD right before their final duel. Cal Baptist wrapped up the regular season this past Sunday against CSU Bakersfield, actually a win, where the Cal Baptist wrestlers wanted to wear their own wrestling gear. They didn't want to wear the school issued uniforms. That is the associate AD up in the front telling the wrestling team that they must wear the school issued uniforms or they'll not be able to compete. The video went viral, and it's not a good look for Cal Baptist right now. The alumni body from Cal Baptist came out yesterday once they saw the video, condemned the university's actions, and said it remained hopeful that those in charge would soon decide to engage in dialogue regarding this matter. They said, quote, "No athlete should be threatened with losing their season for wanting their voice to be heard." I should backtrack. That's what the AD said there, that you will not be able to compete. The season will be done. We're going to forfeit unless you do this. The video is deeply concerning. These young men were not refusing to compete. They were asking to peacefully express themselves about a decision that directly impacts their futures. They wanted to keep wearing those shirts that you saw what they wore in Fargo. A Keep CBU wrestling spokesperson and alumnus Noah Kistler said in a statement, "Higher education should foster leadership, dialogue, and character. Ultimatums and threats do not reflect those principles. We remain hopeful the university will take this moment to make it right, to choose dialogue over discipline and leadership over intimidation. That is all these athletes are asking for." Cal Baptist eliminated wrestling, golf, and swim and dive as they get set to move conferences. I believe they're going to the Big West, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's the West Coast Conference. I can't remember which. But they are moving leagues come July 1, and wrestling was one of the cuts that they made. Now, they have not made any statements since. All they said was when they made the announcement early January, the school, that while we had hoped to continue offering our full slate of athletic programs in this new environment, it's become clear that changes are required to really realize the university's goal of achieving greater competitive excellence that the new Division I era demands. Basically, you don't have the money to pay for it. That's, if you want to read the word salad there, that's what it means. This has gotten nasty. And I thought, frankly, it was a great moment of solidarity that NDSU did that when they wrestled here in late January. And frankly, the match, the Bison dominated that day. And you don't want to see anybody lose opportunities. And especially then you get threatened that you can't wear those shirts in support of what you want to have going forward. That, to me, seems awfully short-sighted. Now, again, their season is over. They'll have some individuals go to the Big 12 wrestling tournament coming up next weekend. But as of now, I mean, it's done. It just, the fact this got out now, it looks really, really bad. So I wanted to make sure we shone some light on it here because this is when it started, to my knowledge, is they were wearing the shirts, and NDSU was the first to kind of reach across the aisle and say, yeah, keep Cal Baptist Wrestling, as they're a member of the Big 12, and their wrestling program is gone now after a couple weeks when the Big 12 wraps up its tournament next weekend in Oklahoma. Crazy story there. All right, let's break. We come back. We'll talk some college hoops. We do this every year for the NSIC tournament. Our guy Rick Neumann will join us from UMary as the Marauders are set for another run in Sioux Falls. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns on this Friday morning. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Final half hour of the week. We are almost done here. Get you set for a great sports weekend on tap. We'll do that before we wrap things up. But the Friday before the NSIC tournament hits Sioux Falls, it has become tradition that we visit with our next. I think we've done this 3 years running, so I texted him yesterday, like, hey, we got to keep doing this, especially if you're on the bus. UMary women's basketball head coach Rick Neumann joins us as they're on their way again to Sioux Falls and the Pentagon. The NSIC tournament, one of the great college basketball tournaments around, restarts tomorrow. The Marauders have a date with Southwest Minnesota State coming up on Sunday. Are you wheels up, so to speak, or have you not left yet?
Yes, we are just down the bottom of the UMary Hill heading to Sioux Falls. So it's exciting to be with you again in our annual trip.
Yeah.
Always appreciate you having me on.
So first, congrats are in order. We read off the awards yesterday on the air of you got 2 all-conference players, first-team players. Again, we talked earlier this year about the year you were having. That's awfully impressive to make the all-NSIC first team.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, Allison Unland from Mohall and Bergen Kinnenbrew from right here in Bismarck at Bismarck Century High School were both first-team all-conference players. And a little, what would you call it, Dom? A nerd stat? Is that what you have?
Absolutely.
Or a nerd note or whatever, right? This would be a good one for you, but the University of Mary women's basketball team now has the longest active streak of consecutive first-team all-conference players in the Northern Sun. So I think that's something to really be proud of. That's something to be recruiting with, not telling me about. That's out on the recruiting trail with, right? Well, I know your listening audience branches out so far that news is traveling fast already right here in real time. So to have that, describe how this season has gone. Has this been beyond what you thought for this year, or is this was what you thought you could do this season? Well, I think it's a fair question, and it may be a little bit of a loaded one because I don't want to seem like the guy that didn't believe in his own squad. But, right, if you would have told me, at the beginning of October when we started practicing that come the last weekend of February / first weekend of March, you're going to the Pentagon, you got to bye. You tied your program record with wins. Yep. You had the player of the year in the conference. I mean, I think we'd have all said, you're in the hunt for a national tournament bid. I think we'd have all said, yeah, sign me up, right? So I don't want to disparage our kids by saying, wow, what a kind of shock the world type of season, because we knew internally that we had some pretty good players that people maybe weren't quite aware of yet as far as, their opportunity, or as the Northern Sun says, their time to shine. So I think we knew that we could do something like this, but it's still to actually do it is really gratifying and something that we just always want to be appreciative of, especially with the start of the year that we had. We started out 7-0, 6 of those being in the non-con. We won the tournament out in Billings, going 3-0, and won some nationally ranked teams there. And then also that next weekend in the Conference Challenge event, we went 2-0 for the first time in the history of our program against 2 teams from the NAAA. And one of those, Central Missouri, it's frustrating because that's a great win for us. And those suckers, I think I looked last night, they won like 11 in a row, and so that nationally you're as good as anybody out there. We just are in such a tough region that it makes it extremely difficult. And you really have to have a continuation of not only a good start and a great finish, but you've just got to be really good all year long to make the national tournament out of our region.
I got to ask here, because you've done this both ways. You've played on the Wednesday and gone down, and you've had the bye. Is there advantage, no advantage? Is it not a big deal for you guys? Because you obviously didn't play. Southwest did play on Wednesday.
Right. I think it's an old Dean Smith mantra we always talked about where, you don't necessarily build momentum going into the tournament, because we've seen a lot of hot teams go in and lose the first game in the tournament. Right. And so I think you build that momentum within the tournament. So for us, I think it was important to have a week off. We were playing about 7 kids. And we had a little, Bergen was kind of beat up in the last month. She had a knee injury a little bit where it took her a little time to get back to full strength. Allison Udland's got a banged up elbow. So those are our 2 best kids. And, they needed some health. And I do think, too, Dom, maybe when you have a young team like we do with only 1 senior, right, I think the week off was good for us. Now, we'll see. But because the other thing that can happen, Dom, is like weird things happen in a 1-game scenario, right? And so, home playoff games at UMary are one of the most enjoyable experiences ever for a student athlete at our university. It would be packed, and we experienced that last year. But I think when you look at maybe the struggles and the weirdness that we had in our last home game against Jamestown, it's like, okay, see, ladies, like the ball bounces weird things happen. So if you can avoid that 1-game scenario where you might not make it down to the Pentagon, I think we're all happy that we're on the bus today, not having played on Wednesday night.
Southwest, you played. They got you earlier. It's one of the, we have 16 teams in the league. You only get to play them once. Is how badly you want another crack at them here tomorrow or Sunday?
I think our girls really do, because we didn't play our best down there, and they really played well. And give them some credit. They're probably part of the reason why we didn't play well. But I think knowing that you're on a neutral court now, it's a 1-game scenario. We both have had a couple of days to prep for each other now. We're down there. That was coming off of an overtime win that we had the night before at Sioux Falls. We traveled there. We got in late. We sat around all day and then played an early evening game, which is weird for us in our league on back-to-back. So I know our girls, when we watch the film, they're like, oh, yeah, man, I was just so exhausted. I was tired. Or now we've had a little more time to prep. So, again, anything can happen in that scenario. They have some very talented players. They're a good team. They were picked to finish 2nd or 3rd, ended up finishing 5th. We were picked 6th, ended up finishing 4th. So it's 2 good teams with some good players, and I think it's going to be an entertaining game on Sunday for the fans.
I have to add, just with how difficult this tournament is, just to get there, and you've had success to go down there and win a couple games, just having past knowledge of going down there, how much does that help? I know you got a younger team, but you've had players go down there. Can you use that memory, to help out this weekend?
I think so. Most of our girls that are in the primary of this team, they were either a contributor like Bergen, or they were redshirting, but they were on the bench just 2 years ago when we advanced to our first program's, championship game experience. And then last year, those girls were kind of thrust into a more prominent playing role. And we won a playoff game on a Wednesday night and went down. And unfortunately, we're on the wrong side of the bracket and got steamrolled by Mankato again, which has kind of been the story of our tournament experience, matching up with those guys and not getting over the hump yet. So someday it will. Maybe this year in the semis, hopefully we get that chance to play them again. Or maybe they lose tomorrow, Dom, and we win. And it's just, us and St. Cloud on Monday in the semifinals. But I do think you can use it. And I think for us, you said it, Tom, it is the best Division II tournament in the country. All the teams, men and women, we stay at the same hotel. The tournament staff, the hotel staff, they just take such great care of you. The Pentagon, awesome facility. You get gifts every game you win. I want the chance, Tom, to come on here next year and validate this. But we have a ton of coaches in our league that talk about how sometimes the regional experience is less than the Pentagon, because again, you're playing at someone's home court, and if you're not that team hosting, there's just no fans. Where here, you're just going to be surrounded by basketball fans all weekend long. And so, like I said, I want the chance next year to say, yeah, that was true. But until then, I'm going to just keep hanging my hat on this is a great experience. And I'm so fortunate that we're back here for the 8th time in a row. And we just never want to lose sight of that. I'm glad that our standard has elevated where, like, getting here is that's just the expectation, and we're going to have a great time tonight going to Carnival and like eating like crazy to celebrate a great year. For the Catholics in our team, we got a dispensation from the bishop, which allows us to go absent of the fast today, right? So, I mean, we just got all things going on right now. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to go celebrate Bergen's Player of the Year award with the other coaches of the league and the other award winners tonight, too. And then tomorrow we're going to have a chance to sit down and watch really high-level basketball. And I hope that just that experience, being a part of that tomorrow, will help calm some of the nerves that'll be there Sunday for these girls that are, again, first-time starters in a playoff game in the Pentagon or big-time minutes for the first time. So we're going to have to rely on Chloe Fowl. We're going to have to rely on Bergen Kinnebrew. We're going to have to rely on Eden Fridley. Those 3 started playoff games last year in the Pentagon for us, and Bergen's been doing it for a couple of years. But we're going to need those kids to carry us here as the others are going to have some understandable jitters.
So we were texting about this yesterday. I was thinking about this as well the last time you were on, and this is it's not a slight at Logan Nisley, but that Bergen was on that team, those great Century teams, and we were so focused on Logan, and rightfully so. She's a tremendous player. She's playing in Nebraska, but I don't know if that took the shine off of how good a player Bergen was in high school, because she was really, really good, and obviously it's only developed now in college.
I think that there's definite credibility to that, right? Like, it was just all about Logan and all of these D1 offers. And again, you're right. She's had a great career. And I mean, we recruited her too, obviously, but just the Bergen kind of be that behind the scenes score. And then you look at her numbers and you're like, wow, right? Like, really good. And so I think you've seen her game elevate at the college level. And, we're fortunate that Century High School girls, we've got, a couple of them on our roster. We got another one coming next year, but they're really well coached by Nate Wellstead, who's a good friend of mine. And, they know how to guard from day one. Yeah. They play conceptually like we do at Mary in a collegiate style. So they know how to cut and move and space off the ball. And so, they come in really prepared, but their opportunity to play early is really accelerated for Bergen. And now you're seeing that with her, being culminating in her winning the Northern Sun North Division Player of the Year.
All right, let's hit with a really hard item here before we go. Who originated the hashtag Swaggy Sock Saturday? You know how much of a sock maven I am. Who started that on Twitter?
Boy, it's been a while for us. I think it goes back to my assistant coach, Jason Schmitz, who is a few assistants ago. I think we kind of somehow came up with that idea, looking for something unique, something fun to do. We came up with that about, 9-10 years ago, and it's just really taken off. And the fun part was that I enjoy is we had the Fridleys hosted our team for a pregame meal here last week, and they gifted everybody a pair of socks. And then you find out now that those socks find their way into kind of a collective bin. Our senior this year, Cassie Erickson, she's the provider of socks on Saturdays, if anyone forgets. So it is fun to see that. And I hope that the fans and people, recruits, all of those people just enjoy some of those unique traditions that we have as a team, where we make sure that we're trying to enjoy ourselves during what can be a long, grinding season of buses and cold and winter and basketball and coaches yelling and, right, like the ball not going in at times. So we want to have that joy be something that's apparent in our program.
Last thing, keep the fashion going. Did you bring the orange sports coat? Is that with you this weekend?
It is with, it'll be a game time decision. I talked to my tailor yesterday about getting a couple of maybe shirts and ties that were ready. And wouldn't you know, when I walked in to grab those, just so conveniently, he had laid out some other items too. And so maybe one of those did find its way. I said, maybe I can do this if you can promise the alterations are done on time. And wouldn't you know, so shockingly, Dom, you can, right? So we might see something just totally new on Sunday as well.
All right, that's there's a tease. Now, you're in the business, man. That's a heck of a tease for people to watch your game on Sunday. This was great, bud, as always. Safe travels and good luck Sunday, and hopefully we talk soon. Okay.
I hope we're talking next week about going to the national tournament, but always appreciate the chance to spend the morning with you.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes. Rick Neumann, head coach,
Take care,
University of Mary women's basketball team. Marauders have Southwest Minnesota State coming up. That game is on Sunday at 11. The Dragons are there as well. MSUM will play their game at 1:30 tomorrow against Concordia St. Paul. The first game right out of the chute. If you want to see elite basketball, watch Mankato play. Mankato has not lost on the women's side. They have St. Cloud State right out of the chute at 11 a.m. tomorrow. If they win and UMary wins, they'll play in the semifinals coming up on Monday morning at 11 a.m. I love that tournament. Midco does a great job in producing it and putting it on, and looking forward to watching over the next few days. It is high-level basketball. And typically, just look last year, Carson Johnson and what he did last year for MSUM. You're going to see players there, and this is just the nature of the beast. Players there, they're going to play in Division I basketball next year. It's just the nature of the beast. Let's take our final break. We come back. We got a loaded sports weekend. We'll get you ready for that. Get you out the door. Is Hot Mike on a Friday morning. We'll wrap on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, wrapping things up for the week. We're out of here already. Been a crazy week. If you missed any of our shows, you can go back, and I know many people podcast them. You can do that. You can watch the shows in full on WDAY Plus. If there's a particular guest you want to check out, Eric and Maddie, our great team, put everything on YouTube and social media as well. So you can, if you missed an interview with anybody we had this week, if you missed the Mason Klabo one, that'll be up. All that good stuff available. Inforum.com, our YouTube page, all that stuff. Podcast. I know a ton of people are listening every day. Really appreciate that. We love when you watch as well. It makes the heart grow every time I have somebody come up to me and say, I love the show. It means a lot. And I heard from a couple people yesterday about it. Let's do a couple emails here before we get you ready for what to watch this weekend. This is a good one. Dom, how did the hot water and honey cough drops work for, quote, Marathon Sam yesterday? I thought pretty good. I could definitely tell watching the last game, the Legacy Shanley game, he was running out of steam. And I just mean tired. His voice still sounded good. But that is a long day. Kenny Albert just did this over in Milan. He's a machine. I think he did 24 games in 18 days, something. And then he flew from Milan to L.A., and they were doing a game Wednesday night on TNT. So I think it worked. Well, let's check back Saturday night. Let's see how he's doing. He's got 2 games today. This is easy. He's stealing money today. After 4 yesterday, that's what always I thought. Friday, heck, is only 2 games? Come on. And then Saturday, he's got the 1. He's going to help us out, though. He'll be part of our broadcast tomorrow for the women's game up at the Shack. Real quick before we get to what to watch, I just watched with sadness your piece on Cal Baptist Wrestling. I was wondering if the student-athletes whose program was cut by their school would have an opportunity to try to use the portal to transfer to another school. Yes, that is available to them, obviously with their program going away. The wrestlers that have eligibility left can go somewhere else, and I imagine quite a few of them will. But how it was handled was just tacky. It was bad. All right, let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. What to watch brought to us by our great friends at Northwestern Mutual. Don't forget, state hockey tournament resumes at the top of the hour with the consolation games. The girls' semis hit the air at noon on WDAY. Any of your ABC affiliates statewide, you can check out the games today. The boys' semis begin at 5:30, and then don't forget Championship Saturday begins at 4:30 with the boys to follow. Also going on in Dickinson is the state gymnastics meet. We're bringing you all the coverage of that as well from Dickinson. You can stream everything online on WDAY Plus of the state gymnastics event that starts today and culminates tomorrow out in Dickinson. Also today, on a busy Friday, on our What to Watch, we've got the Twins coming up against the Yankees. That's on Twins TV if you want to check out whatever baseball team that they're fielding. The Wild are playing the Mammoth tonight, 8 o'clock on FanDuel Sports North. And the Bison baseball team facing Missouri, 6 o'clock on SEC Network Plus. Shout out to our guy Mike Scogan, who told me the last time the Bison played Mizzou on a weekend, Max Scherzer was starting from Missouri. That's pretty darn good. That's coming up tonight. Also, don't forget, tomorrow we're at the Shack for the Bison and UND. Coverage begins at 1 with the men's game to follow at 4. Gophers play tomorrow against UCLA. Wolves Nuggets you'll see on WDAY coming up Sunday. And the Wild play at 4 against the Blues on Sunday as well. Thanks to our guests today, to Mason Klabo, to Joe Beschorner, and Rick Neumann. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy whatever sporting event you're taking in. We'll see you back here on Monday.